Someone should discuss the protagonist in a young adult series to student at an Ivy League pipeline. Not me, but someone. Hey, it's Nicole, you don't care that much, let's move on. There's been a lot of talk about this new movie, The Kissing Booth 3, lately, and in a desperate bid to become relevant to anybody at all, I decided to watch the third one with no context on 1 and 2 because I figure in the very precarious mental state I am currently in, watching the third one alone should be enough to send me over the edge. But for your context, this series began with the 2018 Kissing Booth 1, or I guess just The Kissing Booth. It was this rom-com based on a novel that began as a Wattpad fanfiction written by a 15-year-old. The original premise was this high school junior, Elle, falls for her best friend Lee's brother Noah. Somehow, don't ask me, a kissing booth is involved. A kissing booth is an attraction where the person who runs the booth essentially kisses a lot of people who pay them in order to raise money for fundraisers, usually for charity. Kissing Booth 3, specifically, is a nearly 2-hour-long movie about, well, not a kissing booth. Basically, in Kissing Booth 3, it's the summer before high school graduation, and Elle is torn between 2 colleges. She's not sure whether she should follow her boyfriend Noah to Harvard or her best friend Lee to UC Berkeley. She starts leaning toward following her boyfriend to Harvard, and to make it up to her pissed best friend, makes sure to spend a lot of time with him over the summer, and they work together on this really contrived summer bucket list. Obviously, I knew this was going to be a bad movie before I watched it. I knew it was going to be bad while I watched it, but it did get me thinking about bad TV, specifically the sheer prevalence of it and why we seem to need it culturally. I think that the cultural importance of bad TV is a really interesting question to discuss through the lens of The Kissing Booth 3. Part 1 of this video is going to be me establishing that KB3 is bad. I could just play cringy clips of this movie without any commentary for probably the same effect, but then you would just be watching the movie. This way you can say you didn't actually see the movie, but just watched it through me, and that way you can retain some of your dignity. I do it for the people. After we get through this movie, I'll talk about why I think that we love to watch bad TV and the implications of it. Cool. The Kissing Booth 3 opens with an absolute monster of an expository montage with Elle's overbearing narration at breakneck speed.
We camped in the woods, went fishing on a lake,
Fed some wildlife, caught some waves at Big Sur, watched Noah becoming friends with Rachel, watched me watch Noah becoming friends with Rachel.
The montage illustrates immediately one of the biggest issues with this series, the lazy writing. This montage doesn't accelerate any progress or growth, and it's just there to pass the time, establish itself as a summer fun movie, and try to use wish fulfillment in order to get you to care about the characters. Anyway, Elle is choosing between Harvard or Berkeley. And yes, it is not unheard of for a college to actually call an applicant, but the timeline is definitely a little off. As far as I know, high school is let out around June, and National College Decision Day is May 1st. The even bigger problem is how Elle managed to get into Harvard in the first place. Someone should discuss the protagonist in a young adult series to student at an Ivy League pipeline. Not me, but someone. This is one of those situations based on reviews of the first 2 movies where we're just constantly told that Elle is smart and supposed to believe it even though we've never seen her study or open a book or display any special talent. Like, Elle Wood studied. Do better. And on top of that, since Kissing Booth Elle apparently got into college undecided, she should have some incredible personality or interest. We see Lee, Elle's best friend, and his girlfriend Rachel as they struggle in their own special way before departing at the end of the summer to separate colleges.
Painstakingly coordinated my Berkeley schedule with your Rhode Island School of Design schedule.
Man, say RISD. Elle goes out to eat with the Flynns, Noah's and Lee's parents, who announce that they're selling their beach house.
The upkeep on the place is hardly worth it since we're not even going to be there.
Is this a vote? Because I vote no.
Why does Elle get a say? Apparently this beach house is this major part of their childhoods. Not that this has really been developed in the first 2 movies. And so somehow we're supposed to feel sad about this. Peak relatability. Cue montages of this beach house. Elle and Lee find their beach house bucket list that they created when they were children. The teens scheme to stay longer and offer to stay in the house over the summer in order to help prepare it for sale.
I am so glad that you asked your parent of mine. Like you said, you're gonna need someone here help coordinating with some stuff.
We would be more than happy to stay here for you.
Elle finally decides to go to Harvard with Noah, and Lee is pissed and runs away.
Lee!
By the way, Elle and Lee have these weird rules for their friendship that they created when they were children and still abide by. Separate from the bucket list.
We can make this summer a blast, I promise.
Yeah, kind of like you promised about rule number 19.
This scene is so wild to me because it's like, so Lee is perfectly fine doing long distance with his own girlfriend, but Elle isn't allowed to? How is this friendship so fragile if they have known each other for so long? The unnecessary inner monologue too.
I felt horrible about hiding all this from Lee. But the truth was, I was leaving him, and it was killing me to see him so upset.
Elle promises to make it up to Lee by spending their summer working on their bucket list. More montages of the beach house ensue. Montages of them going through their bucket list. At this point, only 20 minutes of this film have passed. This guy, Marco, who Elle may have had a thing with in a previous movie, shows up, and so does Noah's hot friend Chloe for some manufactured drama.
That's kind of a double standard. I was totally fine with Chloe.
Well, I didn't kiss Chloe.
The movie starts to establish that things are piling up for Elle with her job, taking care of her brother, watching her father date another woman, seeing Lee make a new Berkeley friend, etc. And then more montages. As part of their bucket list, Elle and Lee get ready for a real-life Mario Kart race, and when Noah refuses to join them, Marco steps in.
Give me a helmet.
At this point, I felt physical pain. Everything about this is so much. The extras are acting like rent is due. Noah gets mad that Marco participated even though he was the one who refused to help Elle in the first place. Later that night, Elle skips a surprise date with Noah to stage a flash mob with Lee, much to the absolute delight of every single stranger at this restaurant. If you ever feel like time is passing you by too quickly, just start watching this movie. Noah finds out that Elle was never on the waitlist to Harvard and had really just been delaying her decision, conflicted between the two guys. At a 4th of July party, Marco ends up punching Noah, who doesn't hit back. It's the only instance of character growth that I've seen and believed so far. Marco, surprise, still likes Elle. Elle angsts about her life during a get-together with Linda, her father's new girlfriend. When Linda takes the piece that Elle's mother used to play with, Elle blows up.
I don't really care what you want.
Elle.
What? She can't just like walk into our lives and be all part of it like she's just been here the whole time.
This scene is weird to me because her dad should really know how much that piece meant to Elle and to her mother, and so when he's just like, yo, give Linda that piece, it's just really weird. After Elle is horrible to Linda,
Linda, you don't belong here.
Elle's dad puts her in her place.
I think it's selfish of you to even be doing it.
I've spent the last 6 years of my life making sure that you and Brad are my only priority. I even took a job that I hate to earn more money to help you with school. You stand there and you call me selfish. You have no idea how disappointed in you I am, right?
Subsequently, because Noah doesn't want Elle to go to Harvard just for him, wanting her to make a decision for herself, he breaks up with her. All I could think of during this was, how the hell did they get so close to the Hollywood sign? Like, this is me when I tried to go. Heartbroken, Elle misses a bucket list item with Lee, and he explodes at her, saying things like he's just never mattered to her compared to his older brother, Noah. Elle explodes.
God, it's like you are 5. You have never had to worry about anything. You've had everything handed to you your whole life. Oh, and a new rule. Yeah, all of our rules are done.
Like, yeah, Lee is a horrible codependent friend who doesn't seem like a real person. But also this movie tries so hard to make Elle seem poor. She's got a spacious house, a pretty comfy life, a father who's helping her go to college. I don't know if she can really shout at someone else for having privilege. Now that Elle has pissed off everyone, Lee's mom gives her some good advice, saying that she should figure out what she wants for herself before deciding on a college based on that.
Your choice of school had more to do with what other people wanted for you rather than what you wanted for yourself. The whole time I've heard you talking about where you were going to go to school, I never once heard you talk about what you actually wanted to study once you got there. Figure out what your dream is, what you're passionate about, and then choose a school based on that.
Elle and Marco part on good terms.
You never told me you wanted to go to New York.
I've always wanted to go. But besides my family, there was only one thing keeping me in LA, and that's all over now.
What the hell? There's another montage of Elle leaving the house, and I actually like this one a little better as an illustration of what Elle has to let go of in order to move forward. Elle sends Mrs. Flynn a photo of them all together at the beach house, and the mom ultimately decides not to sell the house. In my opinion, undercutting a big conflict of this movie. Elle and Lee say their goodbyes, and I really did not like the choice to put all these creepy versions of their past selves with them together. You may disagree. Anyway, loose ends, Rachel breaks up with Lee, and Elle ends up applying to USC in game design. I've only seen Elle demonstrate an interest in playing games rather than making games, so I'm not really sure if this works, but okay.
Pitch any ideas you have for possible games or gaming products.
Like right now? You know how in fantasy sports, people draft real-world sports athletes? What if we were to apply that to a large esports platform? And you could even call it Fantas-E sports. Fantasy football is like a multi-million-dollar industry, right? And how much is the esports industry raking in? So, I mean, it kind of just seems like that might be worth something.
I think I got in!
Yes! Always support your bestie. So you're saying that Elle could have invoked this rule at any point during this movie because Lee was never following it? Time skip to 6 years later, Rachel and Lee are back together and engaged, and Elle and Noah reunite. They visit the kissing booth because it's in the title and they need to mention it at least once. Honestly, kind of a power move to not give each of these movies a different name because the writers are like, we know we don't care, we know you don't care, so why? Why indeed? Elle and Noah agree to go on a motorcycle ride when he's back in town, and presumably they get back together sometime after the movie ends.
That all of this happened just because of, well, you know.
Alright, I acknowledge that this movie is trying to subvert some tropes by being more realistic about what happens when teens mature. The breaking up before college, the message of having to find yourself, those are good to include. But I find that this taste of reality, the idea that some people are just meant for certain periods of your life and you have to let them go in order to move forward with your own, is kind of undercut by later events just for a happy ending. Rachel and Lee getting back together, Noah and Elle reconnecting, the Flynns not selling the beach house. The one thing that is unique about this movie and series is that it had Elle and Lee remain platonic friends the whole time. But the way Lee threw tantrums every time Elle made a decision that didn't revolve around him made me wonder if maybe partnering them would have made a lot of sense. Characters are without a doubt a weak spot in this movie. This third installment revolves around interpersonal conflicts between the characters, but I don't like any of them. Any growth is squeezed into the last minute and or really inorganic. Side characters like Marco are purely used in an attempt to advance other characters. I could not recognize the Berkeley friend in the lineup. Chloe is just there to do the whole women support women thing without much nuance for Elle, even when Elle clearly needs like a talking to or some tough love. Also, Elle doesn't have a ton of chemistry with Noah in my opinion, but it could be that they are real life exes, so give that a pass. Anyway, overall, I get the sense that the writers are just relying on tropes that we're very familiar with in order to manufacture some audience feelings. The writers don't really care, neither do the actors probably. I mean, Joey King has been nominated for an Emmy and a Golden Globe, elsewhere of course, and yeah, I mean, at least the cast looks like they're having fun. So The Kissing Booth 3 is bad. Now we get to why any of that matters. At the end of the movie and throughout it, I kept thinking, what was the point? Beyond this specific movie's nonsensical plot. I think most people would watch this movie and agree that this kind of entertainment is bad, but a lot of us keep consuming things like this, talking about teen dramas, soaps, and reality TV and referencing them as guilty pleasures. There's a lot to why people love watching TV that they consider as trash. First, of course, even though bad TV is supposedly subjective, we don't really consider bad TV just like TV that we don't like. People will enjoy something, feel like they shouldn't, and then preface it with, it was so bad that it was good. A lot of this is because of cultural pressure. You disclaim your own preferences because it won't align with society's, and so you caveat your understanding and acknowledgement that this is some lowbrow entertainment so that you won't be shamed. As for the actual act of enjoying bad TV, well, there are a lot of possibilities. The very obvious one, after a long day of work, you're just not in the mood for anything challenging. You want mindless, unrealistic stimulation that you can just turn your brain off to. With this kind of stuff, in a way, you know exactly what to expect. In addition, watching trash TV with other people especially can be almost ritualistic. If you compare watching reality TV and sports, in both scenarios you invest and care about this outcome that doesn't really affect you practically, nor do you have any control over. There's a lot more to be said about the communal experience too. Trash TV on the surface is purposeless, but it is funny. It's also highly accessible and a great escapist experience for people to share in. Another reason why you might like bad TV is downward social comparison. Lots of viewers will at least try to say that they watch shows ironically. You can feel superior to a bad show if you can catch the plot holes, unrealistic events, cringy dialogue, and laugh at it. It reaffirms your own belief that you are cultured. It's a sense that because you're acknowledging and vocalizing that you're subverting societal good taste, you can be seen as having good taste too. Of course, with this discussion of bad TV, we can't ignore the possibility that this content just might not be for us, and that's why we think it's trash. Yeah, everyone, including me, is ragging on the Kissing Booth 3 on YouTube, but I'm sure there are a lot of teens, the actual targeted demographic, who really feel the show and take it seriously, even though I might think it's objectively poorly made. There's a huge element of wish fulfillment in the series, and maybe it satisfies something in the target audience. Of course, this aspirational lens can be kind of dangerous because of the implications of hopefully the unintended portrayals of toxic relationships. Broadly speaking, I think my opinion on portraying toxic relationships and behavior on screen is pretty moderate. I think it can be done appropriately. Like, even if the characters themselves don't know or acknowledge that anything is wrong, there should be directorial choices that show us, the audience, that a character's actions are questionable by showing negative consequences of their actions. Basically, not this. This is movie 1 and this is movie 3. Or if that's not realistic, at least showing some emotional harm or damage incurred on another character. Anything except for presenting the situation as just like fine and dandy. I don't know if y'all have watched Bridgerton, but I made an older video on that illustrates this point more in depth if you want to check it out. Anyway, to sum up this video, The Kissing Booth 3 as the final installment of the series should stay 6 feet under. But in the event that they actually revive the series for a number 4, I guess we have no choice but to continue hate watching it. Alright, that's enough. If you got anything out of this video, please watch another, subscribe, find me in the comments, your choice. Alright, see y'all.